Of tensions between the U.S. and Iran today after Iran shot down an unmanned U.S. Air Force drone that it says violated Iranian airspace early this morning, Iran time. The U.S. insists this drone was flying in international airspace, calling the incident, quote, an unprovoked attack. I want to go to Hallie Jackson right now at the White House. We should note the president spoke a moment ago in the Oval Office. That tape we're going to be seeing in about a minute or so. But Hallie, give us some sense of what the president said.
It's actually more significant, Lester, to talk about what the president did not say, and he did not announce retaliatory military action against Iran in the last couple of minutes. That does not preclude the option, of course, but the president appeared to be trying to give Iran an out. He talked about the idea that perhaps that drone strike was not intentional, saying maybe it came from an Iranian general, he said, who was acting loose and stupid. The president did not rule out continued talks with Iran. He was cagey, as he so often is, when asked about the specifics of a potential military option here. I had the opportunity to ask the president if, in fact, he would strike Iran, and simply said, we'll soon find out, Lester. All
right, Hallie, thanks. That tape has been queued up. Let's listen to what the president told reporters in the Oval Office minutes ago.
Go ahead. Question? No, Iran made a big mistake. This drone was in international waters. Clearly, we have it all documented. It's documented scientifically, not just words. And they made a very bad mistake.
How will you respond, Mr. President? How will you respond?
You'll find out.
Are you willing to go to war with Iran?
You'll find out. You'll find out. I mean, obviously, you know, we're not going to be talking too much about it. You're going to find out. They made a very big mistake.
Mr. President, what are your concerns about China and the Canadians who are detained, sir?
No concerns. We'll be discussing that. It'll be one of the issues I think we'll be discussing right now with Justin.
Mr. President, the Fed made no change to the interest rate.
Say it?
The Fed made no change to the interest rates, right?
Well, I guess they indicated they're going to be lower. Should have done sooner, but what are you going to do? Can't win them all. He should have done it sooner, but you can't win it all. And eventually he'll do what's right, perhaps. Let's see what he does.
Will you ask China to release the Canadians? Do you intend to bring them up when you meet with
Obviously, we're very concerned about the escalation by Iran recently. We have significant presence in the area, including leading on the NATO mission in Baghdad, in Iraq. We look forward to discussing with our closest ally their perspectives on this and how we can move forward as an international community.
Will you ask China to release the Canadians, sir?
Meeting with Xi Jinping. Will you help Justin Trudeau get a meeting with Xi Jinping at the G20 next week to talk about the detainees?
Well, I don't know that he's trying to meet. Are you trying to get a meeting?
We've got a lot of things to discuss.
Well, otherwise I'll represent him well. I will tell you. We have a meeting set up with President Xi, and it's obviously on the big transaction that we're talking about and negotiating. Our people are actually speaking now. We'll see what happens with that. But anything I can do to help Canada, I will be doing.
What's your message on Huawei to Canada?
Excuse me?
Are you planning to bring it up with President Xi when you meet with him?
I would, at Justin's request, I will absolutely bring that.
When USMCA is ratified, sir, will that be the end
Don't
of
say
tariffs?
when.
When it is ratified.
Don't say when, because so far I have to get the Democrats to approve it. All right? So I like your positive thinking. But if, and the if is really subject to the Democrats. Let's see what happens. But I really believe that Nancy Pelosi and the House will approve it. I think the Senate will approve it rapidly. It's going to be very bipartisan. It's great for the farmers, manufacturers. It's really great for everybody. And unions. It's great for unions. I mean, we have tremendous union support, too. It's a tremendous, it really is. It shows a partnership between three countries. And it's sort of three countries in a trade sense. We're competing with the European Union. We're competing with China. It gives us a bigger dialogue. It gives us a much bigger platform. It's really good for all three. It's something that's very popular. I hope politically they can do what they have to do. Now, a day after the election, it would win with a tremendous support. But we have an election coming up. But I think Nancy Pelosi is going to do the right thing.
And will that be the end of tariffs on Canada and Mexico?
Well, we'll see. I mean, you know, they have to do what they have to do. We understand that. We can't have big, tremendous shipments of certain products, so we understand that very well.
We were very pleased with the lifting of the tariffs on steel and aluminum.
They've been lifted, as you know, and there won't be, hopefully, transshipping. If there's transshipping, I'll call Justin, and I'm sure he'll take care of it. And if he doesn't take, I'll probably call him a second time. And if he doesn't, then we'll have to talk, right? But I think that that situation is very well taken care of. Very important for both countries and for all three countries, the farmers. Very, very important. More so in that case from us and Canada. But the farmers are really happy with it. The manufacturers are very happy. Mexico is thrilled. You saw the vote. It was a very lopsided in a positive way vote, a great vote. And I think it's going to be something very special. Again, it's the largest trade deal by far ever entered into, and we're very close to having finalized. It means a lot of jobs for our country, a lot of wealth for all three countries, and we're really competing against the world. You know, we're not competing with each other so much. This brings us into a position where we're not competing with each other. We're competing against the world, and that's what we're doing. We're competing against big sections of the world, including Asia and including other areas, and I think it's going to be very special. I think it's going to end up being a very important deal, but the biggest ever made.
Will you invite the Toronto Raptors to the White House? Will you invite the Toronto Raptors to the White House? I'm from the Toronto Star.
Well, we thought about that. That's an interesting question. They played phenomenal basketball. I watched a little bit of it. They were really terrific. Congratulations, by the way. That was a great job by a great team. So we'll think about that. If they'd like to do it, we'll think about that. We have a lot of other folks coming. And the Presidential Medal, I just spoke to him. We're going to be presenting the Presidential Medal of Freedom to Roger Penske. Roger Penske is a great gentleman who has won 18 Indianapolis 500s. He's won, just won Daytona. He won Daytona, he won Indianapolis, he won probably more than anybody in the history of racing. I can't imagine anybody even being close. But Roger Penske is going to be getting the Medal of Freedom, and he's very thrilled to be getting it, and that'll be announced over the next little while. But I guess actually I'm announcing it pretty much now. But they'll be putting something out. They'll be putting something out in a little while. He's very deserving. He's a great gentleman. I've known him a long time, and a very brilliant guy. When you think of all the countries that want to win Indianapolis and Daytona, and they fight and they spend, even Canada, they spend a lot of money, and and you know, when a man wins Indianapolis, when he wins it 18 times, and he just won the Daytona, and he won many things over the course of years, and he's become a very successful man. We talked about electric cars today. I think nobody knows more about that subject in terms of common sense than Roger Penske. So Roger Penske will be getting and receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Mr. President, you said Iran is a different...
We are watching President Trump. This was recorded a few minutes ago to the White House pool, who had gone in the Oval Office there. The president meeting with Canadian leader Justin Trudeau, but making some comments about Iran and the shoot down of an American reconnaissance drone, an unmanned drone. He's going to say a little more here.
Made a mistake. I would imagine it was a general or somebody that made a mistake in shooting that drone down. And fortunately, that drone was unarmed. It was not, there was no man in it, and there was no, it was over international waters, clearly over international waters, but we didn't have a man or woman in the drone. We had nobody in the drone.
Are you still open?
It would have made a big difference, let me tell you. Would have made a big, big difference. But I have a feeling, I may be wrong, and I may be right, but I'm right a lot. I have a feeling that it was a mistake made by somebody that shouldn't have been doing what they did.
So do you think
I think they made a mistake. And I'm not just talking to the country made a mistake. I think that somebody under the command of that country made a big
Are you
mistake.
still open to talking about Iran's leadership?
Let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens. It's all going to work out.
So you're like members of your administration who want...
Say it?
Are you saying you think it wasn't intentional to strike the drone?
I don't know. I find it hard to believe it was intentional, if you want to know the truth. I think that it could have been somebody who was loose and stupid that did it. But we'll be able to report back, and you'll understand exactly what happened. But it was a very foolish move. That I can tell you.
What is do you feel like there are members of your administration who are trying to push you into conflict?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, in many cases, it's the opposite. But I will say, look, I said I want to get out of these endless wars. I campaigned on that. I want to get out. We've been in Afghanistan for 19 years. As you know, we've reduced very substantially in Afghanistan. We beat the caliphate. We took back 100% of the caliphate. When it was 99%, Justin, I said, we're going to get out. We're going to start peeling back. And everybody went crazy because it was 99. So I said, all right, so we'll finish it up. So we got 100%. And we're pulling that back out of Syria. We're pulling a lot of people back. But this is something, this is a new wrinkle. This is a new fly in the ointment, what happened shooting down the drone. and this country will not stand for it. That I can tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Minutes ago, President Trump talking to reporters in the Oval Office there about a wide-ranging number of issues, but specifically what we're honing in here is comments on the shoot-down of an American drone, an unmanned aircraft about the size of a small passenger jet. The U.S. says was shot down in international waters. The Iranians say it was over their territory. I want to go back to Hallie Jackson at the White House. Hallie, in this course of 10 minutes, we heard the president say Iran made a mistake, as if they crossed a line, but then he went on to say they made a mistake in a different connotation there. So what are we left with?
You're picking up on exactly what I was struck by from the president's comments in the Oval Office, Lester, and that is the shading and the framing of the way he's calling this a mistake. Initially, it sounded like an ominous warning to Iran that they made a mistake. Now it seems as though the president means that quite literally, that somebody inside the Iranian regime mistakenly, perhaps accidentally or on their own, acting loose and stupid, as he said, ended up shooting down that drone. The president, I think notably here, talked about how it was an unmanned drone. As you say, the United States says it was flying over international waters, not over Iranian airspace. And the president seemed to draw a distinction, obviously, between a manned aircraft and then the unmanned drone here. It seems like the president, while he's leaving the door open to some kind of a potential military move, and we don't know yet, he is trying to bring down the temperature a little bit, ratchet down the discussion, and try to give Iran a kind of out here by saying, hey, this may have been an actual literal mistake on Iran's part, and we're going to see how that plays out.
Hallie Jackson, thank you. And as the president was speaking, shortly after he spoke, the Pentagon released some video, the first evidence they're offering about that drone, the Global Hawk drone. I think we can show it to you. It apparently shows a smoke trail. There it is, the smoke trail of the aircraft as it was brought down. Now, of course, from this, we can't tell international or Iranian airspace, but it is the first images, the first evidence the U.S. is putting forward about the shoot down of that drone, which is capable of a lot of intelligence collecting from very high altitudes. Let's go to Courtney Kuby now. She covers the Pentagon. She's in the United Arab Emirates, where some of these drones are based. The Pentagon, Courtney, has put out a map showing the location of the shoot down, but not the path that this aircraft took. Do we have any more information as to whether it may at some point have strayed into Iranian airspace?
That's right, Lester. So the map shows what the U.S. military says is where the drone was shot down, this Global Hawk. It was presented along with a statement from the head of the U.S. Air Forces here in the region based in Qatar, who claims that the drone never strayed more than about 21 miles from the Iranian shoreline. Most of the international community recognizes that as long as it's outside of 12 nautical miles from that shore, that's considered international airspace. So the United States military really doubling down on their claims. I can tell you this drone was shot down just a very short distance from where we are here, but an even shorter distance from where I was yesterday out in the Gulf of Oman, where we got a first-hand look at one of the tankers that was attacked in the Gulf of Oman last week, the Courageous. We saw the blast hole. This is something that the U.S. military is now talking about was an attack by a limpet mine. While they're not necessarily pointing the finger directly at Iran, they are saying this is a kind of explosive that Iran has in its inventory. So today marks a new level of tension because now this is a direct attack by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps on the U.S. military, and in this case, it resulted in this unmanned drone being shot down in the Strait of Hormuz, Lester. All
right, Courtney Kuby, thanks. I want to go back to Hallie right now. Hallie, it's notable that the current acting defense secretary has stepped down. Is he still in office? Is he still taking part in the planning meetings we saw going on?
And in fact, based on our reporting and sources from our White House and Courtney's Pentagon team there, the acting defense secretary, Patrick Shanahan, was here at the White House for meetings, but so was the person who will replace him, the current Army secretary, soon to be the new acting defense secretary, Mark Esper. So the actual transition is not for another couple of days, Lester. Lester. But I can tell you this, there is real concern on Capitol Hill that at a moment of tension like this, at a moment of tension when you have this serious provocation by all accounts by Iran, the president does not have a permanent defense secretary and has not had a permanent defense secretary for some 6 months, Lester. This is an issue that even some of his Republican allies are concerned about. They want to see somebody permanently nominated to that post, given the many international hotspots that have been flaring up and, as we see, continue to do so today, Lester.
All right, Hallie, thank you. As we noted, the U.S. now trying to provide some evidence and showing that that aircraft, that drone unmanned aircraft, was over international waters. Iran is also promising to take its own evidence to the UN. I want to go to Ali Arouzi. He's in the NBC News bureau in Tehran. Ali, what are you hearing from there?
Well, Lester, unsurprisingly, the U.S. narrative of events differs from the Iranian version. The U.S. say the drone, the RQ-4A Global Hawk, was shot down in international airspace. Iran says it was in its airspace. Both sides, however, seem to agree on one thing, that Iran shot down the drone. Now, Iran has been saying since this morning that about shortly after midnight local time, that drone took off from a U.S. Air Force base in the southern Persian Gulf, and for about 4 hours it was in or around Iranian airspace, and at about 0400 this morning local time, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard shot that drone down. And just about 20 minutes ago, Lester, Iran was saying that the debris, the wreckage from that drone is currently floating in Iranian waters. Now, we may never exactly know where it was downed, but hitting it was a major coup for the Iranians, and they're not touting it as any sort of accident. They are saying that they showed that they can successfully target a highly sophisticated, extremely expensive piece of U.S. military hardware, and they have been promoting that all day. The commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, a man called General Hassan Salami, says the shooting down of a U.S. drone has sent a clear message to America, adding that the enemies who encroach on Iran's borders will be wiped out. And all of this animosity is very worrying, Lester. I feel like both sides are getting themselves into a cycle that they can't or won't be able to back down from. If they acquiesce to each other's demands, each side looks like it might be weak. If they accelerate this animosity, it endangers both sides. I don't think Iran wants an all-out war, but they don't want to look like they're weak. And as you mentioned, Lester, the Iranian foreign minister saying that they're going to take this case to the UN to prove that this was in Iranian territory.
All right, Ali Arouzi, thanks very much. And to wrap up again, President Trump minutes ago reacting to the shoot down of that unmanned American drone over the Persian Gulf today. The president saying that Iran had made a big mistake, saying that with a tone of warning, but later in his remarks saying he found it hard to believe it was intentional, and suggesting maybe, in fact, a general or someone, a specific person, may have made a mistake. So what the U.S. reaction beyond this will be, we will continue to monitor. We'll have all the developments throughout the day and come back on the air as events warrant. I'll see you back tonight with complete details on NBC Nightly News. For now, I'm Lester Holt, NBC News, New York. Good day.